In today's video, I wanted to talk a little bit about my personal experiences fasting during Ramadan in the United States versus fasting during Ramadan in Jordan. Now, I have not fasted during Ramadan in Jordan in many, many years, probably since I lived there back during university. So it's been a bit, but I truly miss it when I'm fasting here in the United States because it's not quite the same. Let's dive into Jordan first. It is a predominantly Muslim country, so the entire country basically is fasting during Ramadan. Obviously, you have foreigners and Christians who aren't fasting, but the majority of the people are. So a lot of the country is catering towards people who are fasting, which makes it a lot easier. The schedules for school and work shorten and are a little bit later. So people who are working for the government might not go into work until 9 or 10, and then they get to leave around like 2 or 3. Same goes with the school. And then independent businesses will also open later in the day, and then they'll close before iftar, but then they'll open again after iftar and stay open until like 1 or 2 in the morning. Whereas here in the United States, you have to work and go to school the same as you do any other time of year. So for me personally, I go to work from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. which is very, very difficult when you are waking up at 4 in the morning to eat something and then have to go to bed just for a tiny, tiny bit and then wake up again and go to work. Whereas when you're in Jordan, you get to go back to bed after suhoor, sleep for a little bit, and then go to work. So I am exhausted the entire month of Ramadan. And in Jordan, because everyone is pretty much fasting, you don't see people eating out in public. That's just not really a thing. Now, if you go to a touristy place, you'll see people eating. And people are allowed to eat, they just tend to not out of respect. So there's not as many temptations, I feel like. If you go grocery shopping and stuff, like obviously there's food, but I don't feel like people are eating in front of you as much. Whereas here, they just straight up have like parties and stuff at work and school and you don't get to eat. Like I said, it's not a big deal and I don't totally mind people eating in front of me. It's not the worst, but it is nice when you aren't the only person that can't eat at a party and everybody's like, why aren't you eating? It's a little awkward, that's all. The other thing I absolutely miss about living in Jordan during Ramadan is hearing the adhan to break your fast. You can go out onto the street and you hear every single mosque in your area doing the adhan, and you look at the streets and they're completely empty. Everyone is at home eating. It is complete silence. Whereas here in the United States, you can set like an adhan on your phone or something, but otherwise you're essentially just like looking at the clock. And it's just not quite the same. It doesn't feel as nice. I also remembered when I was a kid, I don't know if they still do this, but for suhoor, there would be a man who would be beating a drum, walking down the streets to wake everybody up to eat for suhoor. And it was just a vivid memory that I have. I don't know if they still do this, but it was my all-time favorite thing. To wake everyone up together, there was a sense of community. You knew everybody was up at 4 o'clock, eating, getting ready to fast. Something I learned recently, though, is that the city of Minneapolis in Minnesota allowed the adhan to be played at Maghrib for people to break their fast. Which is just the coolest thing ever, because never in my life would I think that the adhan would be allowed to be played in the United States like that over loudspeakers in a city. And I just think that's absolutely amazing. And I wish they would do it where I live, but I don't see that ever happening. I just realized I didn't explain what the adhan is for those of you who don't know what it is. It is the call to prayer that you hear echoing throughout Muslim cities whenever we have prayers. And we have 5 of them a day, so you'll hear it 5 times a day. And it sounds like this. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Since Jordan is a Muslim country and the majority of the people there celebrate Ramadan and the Eid, they put up decorations everywhere. They're in the malls, you see them on the outsides of people's houses. It's wonderful. There's lights and lanterns and it's just absolutely beautiful. It feels like what it feels like in the United States during Christmas. But it's for our holidays, and you don't obviously get that here. Now, some people do hang up their own decorations in their homes. I do. But it is nice to be able to go out in public and realize that this is Ramadan. Have a constant reminder that you are in this holy month. Whereas here you go out in the public and no one knows that it's Ramadan besides you. And it's just not quite as special being the only people doing it. But there is a positive I have noticed being the only people doing it. Is that my strength and my faith is much stronger when I'm here in the United States. And I think that is because it's so much more difficult. In Jordan, because they do cater your schedule and just everything is a lot easier. You can sleep more, they don't expect quite as much because they know everybody's fasting, and it's just a lot more relaxed. Whereas here, it is just regular life. and you gotta keep up. Even though you're fasting and you're not eating and you're not drinking and you have headaches, you're expected to keep up. They don't care. And so it is so much harder, and it's testing your faith so much more, because yeah, you could just not do it. If you're the only one doing it and you don't feel like anyone else around you, you could just be like, no, it's too hard. But if you do decide to keep going like we do, I feel like you get so much more out of this month because you're putting so much more into it. The other thing I really like about fasting in the United States during Ramadan is that you find tight-knit communities at your masjids or with other local Muslims at your job or your school or wherever. You find these little communities where people get together for iftar dinners and they go to the masjid together. And it's really nice. I feel like I don't have that in Jordan, at least. I do have my family that I'll like go to dinners with and stuff, but I don't have that little community because each person has their own family and everyone's doing it. But here, since you are the only ones, it just feels a little bit more special and like you have something in common, which is quite nice. However, if you don't have one of these communities, it is incredibly lonely, especially if you converted and all your family isn't Muslim. Like me, for instance, half of my family's Muslim who live in Jordan and half of my family's Christian who live here. So all of my family members who live in this country don't fast or don't celebrate the Eid because why would they? They're not Muslim. So I don't have family here to celebrate with. Just don't have it. So it is very, very lonely. I do have some friends, but that's about it. That's why I try to go into the community and find these iftar dinners, so then I have people to communicate with and celebrate with, and it just makes me feel less lonely during this time. But because I am fasting in a predominantly non-Muslim area, I get a lot of questions from people because they don't necessarily know what Ramadan is. A lot of them have never met a Muslim before me. So I get to educate people on what Ramadan is, why I'm doing it. And usually people ask really great questions and we have a good conversation. And I love being able to educate people who aren't familiar with Islam or Muslims or what we do. That's why I love making these videos so much, because I feel like there's so many people who would like to know more, but just don't know how to ask the right questions or who to ask, and maybe feel awkward about it. So I do love having the opportunity to try to educate more people. I do truly miss the nightlife during Ramadan in Jordan though. That is the greatest. Because everyone closes down businesses, schools, everything a couple hours before iftar. After they reopen, and everything is open until like 2, 3 in the morning, almost to suhoor. And it's awesome. You can go out and get coffees or teas, you can go out and get sweets, enjoy time. The nightlife is just awesome. Whereas here, we basically break our fast and then go to bed because nothing in this country is open past 9, which is truly difficult if you're fasting during the summer and you need to like go out to eat and everything is closed. That has happened so many times. It's so annoying. It's also because I don't live in a city, and I feel like if you do live in a city, it's probably better. But the nightlife. There are a lot of pros to fasting in Jordan versus fasting in the United States, but there is one thing that I don't like about Jordan. When so many people are fasting, tensions are a little bit high. It is hard to fast all day. You get a little bit irritable, you get hangry, it's difficult. There's a lot of road rage during Ramadan, which is the complete opposite because you're supposed to be keeping your anger in check and you're supposed to be calm. But people are not like that, so tensions are high when literally everyone around you is fasting. They're not smoking, they're not eating, they're not drinking. It can get intense, whereas here, nobody else is fasting around you, so it's a little bit easier to stay calm and chill. Lastly, let's talk about the Eid. At the very end of Ramadan, we have a giant celebration. It is our holiday, kind of like our Christmas, I guess, if you wanted to make an equivalent. And in Jordan, you get the day off. You get to go to the masjid, you get to explore the city with your family and friends, visit people, it's great. In the United States, you do not get the day off, so you have to ask for it. Legally, they are required to give it to you, but sometimes jobs make it difficult. School makes it difficult. There's been days where I had tests in school and they were like, you can't miss this test, so I wasn't allowed to take off. Thankfully, lately, I've been allowed to take off for the Eid. But the point is, it is nicer in Jordan because you do get the time off to celebrate with everybody. There's decorations everywhere. It's a wonderful time. But the thing I do like about celebrating the Eid in the United States, we go to the masjid, and our masjid here is great. We have a giant potluck. And everybody goes, it's super, super busy. You get to see people in the community. But the thing I like most is when you leave the masjid and you go enjoy your day with your family and friends and you go to like local museums or the zoo or wherever and you see all the Muslims in your city out. And it's just like, it's like a little club. You're like, yes, you're celebrating, I'm celebrating. It's just really nice to see everybody out with their families, all celebrating the same thing in a non-Muslim majority country. Like, it's a special thing to see, which I truly like. So those are just a few of the differences I've noticed between fasting in the United States versus fasting in Jordan, both good and bad. And I don't know if I would necessarily say that one is better than the other. Jordan is definitely easier and it might be nicer, but there are some perks to fasting in the United States as well. I think as long as you have a community here, it can be a wonderful experience. But if you're on your own, it's a lot harder and it's not as nice. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have fasted in multiple countries, both majority Muslim and non-majority Muslim, let me know, what were your experiences? That's it for today's video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!